Hello and welcome to the Evercade Retreat. Gene Jarrett here, and today I'm adding Operation Wolf to my list where I rank every Evercade game ever. Operation Wolf was originally released in arcades in 1987 and got ported to, well, pretty much every damn where. It's a light gun shooter, or on-rail shooter, or crosshair shooter, whatever you want to call it. You simply control where you shoot. Anyway, in the arcade you had a mounted Uzi, or an Uzi mounted on the arcade cabinet, and you used that to shoot, with a button for your grenades. Simple, straightforward stuff. I'm pretty sure it wasn't the first such light gun game in the arcades, but it was the first one that I was aware of, and because of growing up seeing films like First Blood and Rambo 2 and a myriad of other war and action movies, oh, and Terminator of course. But to me back then, Uzis were cool. So yeah, the Uzi was part of the attraction, but I also played the game on various other systems, such as the ZX Spectrum and the Amiga. Well, okay, two other systems, because actually, was there a Master System version? Did I play that? Anyway, the story goes that you're in control of Roy Adams, your stereotypical lone soldier, as he single-handedly takes down the whole bloody army and rescues hostages. Eat heart out Rambo. The army you take on consists of infantry, tanks, helicopters and dogs and stuff like that. To complicate matters, you have limited ammo and grenades and have to shoot ammo refills and such to top these up. Adding further complications, there are civilians you really don't want to shoot. I'm going to leave that in, that made me laugh. Oh, and I should add, this game, as well as being on the Taito Collection 2, it was also on the Taito Super Pocket, where it wasn't the ideal place to play it. But anyway, on with the review portion of the ranking review thing. Graphics, I think they're pretty decent for the time, leaning into a semi-realistic, slightly muted colour style. I mean, semi-realistic, I mean, it sort of reminds me of the visual style of the G.I. Joe or Action Force cartoons. For those Americans of you watching, G.I. Joe was called Action Force over here in the UK because, well, I suppose G.I. Joe meant nothing to people over here. Anyway, yeah, the environments are pretty detailed for what they are. The sprites, obviously depending on the scaling or their closeness to the player on the screen, vary in detail, but yeah, I think they generally look good. The overall look is pretty impressive. Well, you know, for 1988 or 87, whatever it was. I certainly found it impressive looking back in the day. The sound effects, as you would expect, are made up of gunfire, screams and explosions. Shocking, I know. There's also a few voice samples in there for good measure. The music is fairly limited, but it's used well between missions. So yeah, no complaints on the sounds or the graphics at all really. The gameplay is exactly what you'd expect. It's fairly simple stuff, but I think it does a good job of making you feel like you're playing through some kind of military action movie. I had a lot of fun with it back in the day. It was a good arcade blast, but I also enjoyed playing it on the home systems, even without a light gun, because, well, I never used it with a light gun on a home system anyway. As I mentioned earlier, I don't think it was the first light gun game in arcades. I'd be surprised if it was, but it's the first one I knew. It was definitely the first one that I became aware of, where it made you feel like you were playing through an action movie as opposed to shooting ducks or clay pigeons or something. So yeah, it's a rock solid on-rails light gun shooter, whatever you want to call it. The difficulty can be pretty brutal as it's designed to weak credits, but that's hardly a rarity of this kind of game. The main thing is the action's fun and you won't mind too much. Playing on the Evercade specifically, how does it stack up? Well, as I mentioned, because I grew up playing it on home systems using a joystick or whatever, I don't mind playing it with a D-pad. It's not ideal, and it's definitely better with an actual light gun, which isn't an option on the Evercade at the moment. Sinden support or something would be welcome at some point, but I don't imagine that's very likely with only a handful of games that would actually use it. However, playing on the VS using a mouse is hands down the best way to play it on the Evercade. So my final opinion on Operation Wolf is that it is a fun and replayable arcade blast in short bursts. But it's hard to get away from the fact that games like this I would much rather play as originally intended with a light gun. Anyway, to place it on my overall ranking list, I'm going to put it above Speedball 2100 but below the Astyanax. Although arguably I'd say I perhaps have more fun when I am playing it than some of the games above it. The nature of the game, I don't come back to them that often, and they are very much a short burst type of thing. It's like I said, it's more of a when I'm in the mood kind of game. So in spite of nostalgia, I'm ranking it a little bit lower than I might, based purely on the in the moment gameplay fun I get out of it. Anyway, I think that's it for this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.